Hello everyone, my name of course is Artimage and welcome to VEDA 2018 Day 1, vlogging every day of April. Just as I did last year, I'm giving this another go this year, especially since my YouTube channel has been rather sporadic of late. I of course had that good run there with tabletop translations between War Machine Tactics, which got really laggy real quick, and then Shadowrun Returns, which had a couple episodes where I had to re-record because similar video issues, and I still haven't gone back and finished the last one. I should do that sometime very soon, especially since I intend to get into another one when the Battletech Kickstarter finally releases the final product. Now last year I just kind of winged it, and they had some interesting topics, had some vlogs that I considered better than others, some that I would consider successful, some I consider filler, and the viewership was kind of all over the place. Mostly because I don't have a firm audience yet. I'm just kind of finding my footing in everything I'm doing. This year I figured the best route to go is giving you a little more insight into myself. So I'm going to talk about things such as particular games or systems I've gotten into, what attracted me to them, what's pushed me to certain groups or systems or things like that, things that have pushed me to certain causes and interests. Give you a little more background into who is Artimage. So obviously one of the big things to note about me is I am a huge gamer. Not just in the electronic format, but also in a lot of the tabletop stuff out there. I mean, that's a small part of my board game collection because some of it's been packed for an upcoming move, some is still packed from the last move. We've got tabletop books on this side, as well as some various other geekery, such as my Infinity models at the top, some graphic novels here, but all in all, most of it is related in some fashion to gaming. So how exactly did I get my start and interest of gaming? Well, growing up, my parents had an Atari 2600 that they were both somewhat interested in. The games I primarily remember them having were Space Invaders, Missile Command, Pitfall, and that two-player combat one. There were some others, but they seemed to get shuffled around. My mother was big into one called Othello, based on the board game, but I don't remember seeing that cartridge until we were well into the 90s. And because of just when I came along in comparison to my peers, I had a relatively slower physical development, and they allowed video games to continue on in the household as a way to develop my hand-eye coordination. We grew up in rural Stony Creek Mountain, so primarily farmland, not many kids our age around, so it was somewhat isolated. Going into grade 1, my parents got an NES for us, which I had seen at my neighbor's place because they were a little older than me, but they had one, and occasionally we went over there and played some games and stuff and just continued to feed my interest. Just seeing video game commercials and what they were doing with them, the adventures that you could go through, the stories you could experience, and the way they were all so different from each other. Even the similar ones, like you could compare, say, Mega Man and Metroid. Both run and gun platformers, but both very different in style. Mega Man's more deliberate in your actions, whereas Metroid, you have more freedom of movement, you have a greater variety of weapons in Mega Man, but environmental differences there are more aesthetic than they are in Metroid, where they are actually more environmental hazards. So just seeing that there were all these differences and all these different ways of doing things and all these different worlds to explore was just a continued draw. Now my interest in engaging stories was not just limited to games. I was very much an active reader growing up. The only reason I don't read as much now is more not having the time to devote my eyes to just that one specific task. So audiobooks have been great for me, so I can walk the dog and listen to something. Biking and listening to the novel I'm currently engaged in, or while I'm sitting here painting my miniatures. Now obviously board and analog games were also a pretty heavy influence in my growing up, and I'm going to talk about those more tomorrow. So thanks for joining me for this video. I hope that you'll be here for the rest of the experience. And until then, as always, take care of yourselves and each other, and I will talk to you soon.